Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, I want to zoom in here to the hourly chart and talk about what's gone on here in the last 24 hours or so. Because if you watched yesterday's video, you will notice that I was talking about Bitcoin breaking below $4,000 and how I could very easily see Bitcoin headed towards $3,000 to $3,200. If you watch the video, I'll link that in the top right. You'll see what levels of support I was talking about. But in this video, it does look like we've seen a little bit of a bounce coming out of Bitcoin, which I'm certainly not going to complain about. Now, while I do still think that there's a pretty good chance that we go that low, maybe down to around $3,000, $3,200, perhaps set a double bottom down here at $3,500, I could very easily see something like that happening. Like I said, in the last 24 hours or so, we've seen a little bounce. So in today's video, I want to break down whether or not this is a permanent bounce and we've set a permanent bottom in, or if this is just a temporary correction, perhaps one of those RSI resets I've talked about, because the daily RSI is still extremely oversold. We're going to be discussing that and more in today's video. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Actually, I lied. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and that has to do with the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. I'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but if you guys are interested in learning how to do cryptocurrency technical analysis, you can check the link in the description, and if you use the code CT2A2018, then you will be getting 20% off of the course for today only, because it is Cyber Monday. It's a pretty good idea to get into that, because on Wednesday, actually on Thursday, the price of the course is going to be rising from $99 to $149, so that's the cheapest that you're ever going to see the course, and if you buy it today, you'll be getting all future content indefinitely. Anyway, now let's actually get on into the video. Bitcoin is currently trading at around $3,910.98 and probably a couple hundredths of cents down there. But anyway, it's down by about 1% over the last 24 hours, actually over the last hour, excuse me. On the daily chart, though, Bitcoin is doing rather well because we saw that little bounce like I was talking about. If we come in here to the daily chart, we're going to see that we're up a little bit over the last 24 plus hours. And one thing I was talking about earlier is the idea of an RSI reset, because if we see down here, RSI and Bitcoin is still very, very oversold. We see RSI sitting down here around 17, 18, 19. Levels like that indicate extreme levels of being oversold. That was a weird way to put that. That indicates that Bitcoin is extremely oversold. And I think, like I've said in other videos, we're seeing something right here that is analogous to right here. The climax of the bull market and the climax of the bear market. They seem to be the inverse and the opposite of each other, but they seem to also be analogous. And we see that on the RSI, where we saw RSI go to crazy overbought levels at the end of 2017. And we're seeing crazy oversold levels here at the end of 2018, and this does seem to be what happens at the end at the end of bull markets and bear markets. You see the RSI go crazy, you see Bollinger Bands go crazy, and you see a massive amount of exuberance running in the favor of the bulls or the bears, whichever kind of market is coming to an end. And while I'm not necessarily saying that the bear market is over, I do think we are still coming into the end of it over the next couple of months, and probably by the end of Q1 2019, at the very latest, we're going to see some kind of permanent bottom set for Bitcoin because of this massive quote-unquote capitulation that we've seen in Bitcoin over the last 2 weeks or so. It seems to me like we're going to find a permanent bottom somewhere pretty soon, simply because we're crashing so quickly. And I want to be clear in my phrasing here, because some people like to misquote me. When I say pretty soon, I mean in the next couple of months. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get on to the crypto market recap and give the page a little refresh here. And we can see that Bitcoin is up by about 3% over the last 24 hours. That is a decent amount of gains, considering what we've seen over the last 7 days. As we can see here on the 7-day price graphs, Bitcoin ain't been doing all that well. It's been actually crashing pretty hard, as we all know, and it's nice to see a little bit of a gain here, a little bit of a reprieve from the onslaught of the bears, so that the bulls can have a little bit of confidence return to them. Perhaps what we're seeing right now isn't the actual permanent bottom, and perhaps it is actually just some kind of foreshadowing for what may be to come, an actual bottom. We'll see what happens as the time progresses. Anyway, XRP is doing pretty well today, up by about 6.5%, trading at around 37 cents, depending on what exchange you're looking at, of course, because we do still have the whole Tether debacle going on. Tether's trading around 98.5 cents. It is up 0.5% over the last 24 hours, which, like I said, I believe in yesterday's video, not the kind of thing you want to see out of a stablecoin, but alas, you got to play the hand you're dealt, and right now we have Tether as the major stablecoin. Bitcoin Cash is doing really well, up 17.5%. I do want to go ahead and check out the Bitcoin Cash market, because as you can see, even though it's up 17.5%, as I like to talk about, sometimes you got to get a little bit of perspective, and I'll show you where the perspective comes in. Check out this RSI right here. Oh my goodness, look at that. That looks like a roller coaster, actually. When you go up the roller coaster the first time, that was this day right over here, and then you have the first major drop of the roller coaster. That's what's happened to Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash has turned into a roller coaster of blood. I'm sure this is going to be condemned in a little while because so many people are getting cut on it. So many people are getting concussions and dying and getting whiplash. This is not a very fun roller coaster to be on, unless you're shorting, in which case I'm sure you have made a ton of money in Bitcoin Cash. But nevertheless, Bitcoin Cash has had a major sell-off. And of course, a lot of people have been blaming the whole debacle with the hard fork in Bitcoin Cash for this major sell-off in the Bitcoin market. A lot of people have blamed it for that. I'm not convinced that that was the only thing happening. In hindsight, it seems like there was a little bit of trouble brewing on Bitcoin simply because we were trading sideways for so long. So perhaps it wasn't all to do with Bitcoin Cash. I really don't think that I'm not going to get into it. I really don't think that that debacle had everything to do with the crash. It seemed like we may have seen something like this anyway. Like I said, in hindsight is always 20/20. But Bitcoin Cash is having a nice little bounce here. At least something's happening for Bitcoin Cash. We've seen like literally 2 green days, one green day, and then the second green day that's the ripoff of the first down here in the middle of this massive downtrend. So it's nice to see Bitcoin Cash is getting a little bounce. Anyway, if we sort by change over the last 24 hours, we're going to see that there's actually a lot of green today, like we saw earlier on. Metaverse ETP is up 35%, Siren Labs token up 32%, and a matter of fact, Factum is up 30% over the last 24 hours. If we start scrolling down here, we're going to see that there's probably about 15 to 20, probably about 15 cryptocurrencies in the double-digit green, which I'm very happy to see. We see Bitcoin Cash is sitting up here among them. But if we scroll down here, we're going to see that most of the market is indeed green. We see probably about 10 cryptocurrencies in the red. Quark Chain, Cybermiles, and Stratus taking the biggest hit over the last 24 hours. Anyway, I do believe that's basically everything we wanted to cover here. I did want to touch on total market capitalization because currently the entire cryptocurrency market is hovering around $130 billion in market cap. Not exactly a very large valuation considering that Bitcoin used to be worth like $300 billion. Definitely a very major downtrend in the market capitalization of the total market, and definitely definitely something that strikes me as a very good long-term buying opportunity because of how low the prices are. I'm going to be covering that in tomorrow's video, so watch out for that video. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll see that video. I do think that one's going to be a good one. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and that has to do with Bitcoin dominance. Because if we come in here to the Bitcoin dominance chart and we come to the last 3 months, what we're going to see is rather interesting. Let's go to 1 year, actually. What we're going to see is rather interesting, and that's the fact that Bitcoin's dominance has been trading sideways, especially through all of this craziness that we've had in the last couple of days. I can't think of a better term to describe what we've seen. Major sell-off is perhaps another good one. But as we can see, Bitcoin had been having a major rally here while it was going down and trading sideways. I talked about this a couple months ago on the channel quite a lot, where whenever you'd see Bitcoin in a downtrend, typically Bitcoin's dominance would go up. Because, of course, if Bitcoin's going down, the altcoins are going down, and people are moving their valuation out of riskier investments like the altcoins into Bitcoin. And an interesting thing has happened here recently, and that is that in this major sell-off that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Bitcoin dominance hasn't really changed all that much. We've gone up from maybe 51.5% to 53.5%. Not a major movement. Really very interesting. I'm going to leave that TA for another video because we do have a lot of stuff to talk about today, but keep that in the back of your mind because that's definitely an interesting development. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the chart. And I want to go ahead and re-bring up a couple of things I've talked about previously on the channel because they're very important. And previously in this video, even RSI being this oversold is a very big deal. I don't want to overstress that, but I also can't stress that enough. That's a very big deal to see RSI sitting down here below 20. We have not seen RSI this low in a very long time. So long, in fact, that the Coinbase chart isn't old enough for me to give you an example of it. So let's go to the Bitfinex chart. This is a big deal. If we go back on the Bitfinex chart, as you can see down here, this dashed line right here at the bottom of the RSI, this one right here, I'll go ahead and close that. We see that the dashed line right down here on RSI is 30. If you go below 30, that is considered oversold levels. And in fact, anything below 50 is oversold. Anything below or over 50 is considered overbought. So maybe we'll use the terminology extremely oversold below 30. And I would definitely say that we're extremely oversold now. Let's go ahead and look back in the history of the market. See where we are right now. Let's go ahead and zoom out. If you come up here, double click that, you can get the cross. Look at the last time we were this oversold on RSI. Way back in the past. In fact, I don't think, actually, Bitfinex doesn't even go back far enough because I know in the history of Bitcoin, if you look at even older charts like the Mt. Gox chart, you will see that daily RSI has gone this low before, but it's been a very long time. It's been about half a decade since Bitcoin's RSI has been this low, and that's a very big deal for a cryptocurrency that's only a decade old, January the 3rd of next year. That is a very big deal. And the fact is this oversold tells me that we're probably coming into the end of the bear market. And like I've said earlier on in the video, I'm not saying that that's coming tomorrow. I'm not saying that's coming next week. I'm not saying that's coming this month. I'm not even saying that that's going to happen this year, guys. But considering the bear market has been going on for almost a year now, I think that we're probably in the last 80% of the bear market before the accumulation phase starts. And I do think that we're probably going to see some kind of permanent bottom be formed in the next couple of months as we come into the end of that bear market. And what I'm saying by the end of the bear market is after we've established that permanent bottom and we've started trading sideways again, moving on into the accumulation phase. And again, one of the reasons I believe that is because of how oversold we are in the RSI. Now, of course, we don't like doing our technical analysis based off of just one indicator, but based off of everything I'm reading on the chart right now, it does seem that we're coming into the end of the bear market. And like I said in yesterday's video, a very good place that I would think for Bitcoin to go, and I'm tying this all back into the main premise of today's video, would be to $3,000. I would very much like to see Bitcoin to go to $3,000 actually. At this point, since Bitcoin is this low, why not go a little bit lower, get a little bit better deal, and get a little bit more solid of a bottom that even more people can agree on? Because more people are going to be able to agree on $3,000 being the bottom than they are going to be able to agree on $3,500 being the bottom. That was one of the major reasons that we broke $6,000 in my opinion, is that enough people couldn't agree that $6,000 was the permanent bottom, so there was enough selling pressure that when a couple of whales pushed us below $6,000, the market went on a rampage and we continued going south from there. We need to find a bottom that everybody can agree on, and $3,000 to $3,200 I think are good levels for that. If you watch the video on the top right, I discussed that more. I already linked that, so you have to click the I and go watch yesterday's video. But I do think that that is a very good argument, in my opinion anyway. And I do think that we are going to see Bitcoin bottom out probably somewhere around $3,200. Like I said, I'm not calling that as the bottom. We could go lower. We could bottom out exactly where we are now. But my point is that the bears, I think, are starting to get exhausted. I don't necessarily think it's over. I want to be very clear here, guys. You guys know I'm being very clear here because some people don't understand what I'm saying and misconstrue my words, which is rather annoying. But anyway, let's go ahead and get back onto the main point of the video, and that is whether or not Bitcoin is going to stay above $4,000. Well, actually get above $4,000. A little while ago, it was above $4,000. Is Bitcoin going to be able to get above $4,000 and hold it? Well, that's why I was just discussing all of that long-term technical analysis, because as I talk about so much on the channel, you have to zoom out, get perspective on the long term, and then start working on the short term, because the short-term technicals are important, but they're not as important as the long-term technicals. It's very important to understand that long-term technical analysis and short-term technical analysis are two different things. You can be bullish on the long term and bearish on the short term. You can be bullish on the short term and bearish on the long term. You can be neutral on the short term and bullish on the medium term and bearish on the long term. You can be any combination of that. And my point here is that we need to take into account what the long-term technicals are looking at, like when we look here at the short-term technicals. So the short-term technicals might be saying, okay, well, we breached $4,000. We got up above it for a little while. Maybe we're going to keep going up here. We have a little bit of an uptrend forming right there. Perhaps we're going to get it back up above $4,000. But if we zoom out and we look at the longer term technicals and we look at the more, we take the wider perspective of what this move means for Bitcoin ever since back over here on November the 13th or 14th when this downtrend started, what does that tell us? It tells us that we're probably going to go a little bit lower before we finally bottom out. I think we're probably going to find a permanent bottom somewhere between $2,500 to $4,000, and I'll probably end up quoting myself on that because people are going to forget that I said that. I think that's probably where our permanent bottom is going to be. It's going to be somewhere in that region, and the ideal place I would like for it to go is between $3,000 and $3,200 for the reasons I explained in yesterday's video. So where does that leave what we're talking about now? While I do see some more strength coming out of the bulls, I could very easily also see Bitcoin getting back up above $4,000, but I think we're probably not going to hold it forever. One thing I do want to discuss here, though, is that with that in mind, we do have some 4-hour bullish RSI divergence. As you can see, we have three bottoms and three bottoms on the chart and 3 bottoms on RSI. In fact, you don't see bullish divergence like this a lot, but we do see a little bit of a downtrend here and an uptrend here on 4-hour RSI. That's very bullish. So perhaps for the next week or so, we see a little bit of an uptrend. We go up maybe to $4,500, and then we keep going down. I've seen a lot of people making predictions like that, and I don't necessarily think it's unfounded. I could very easily see Bitcoin doing something like that. Tell me in the comments section down below what you think of that analysis. Do you think Bitcoin is going to permanently go down to around $3,000, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, set a bottom somewhere in that region down there between maybe $2,500 to $3,500, something like that, and actually find a permanent bottom there, and we'll enter an accumulation phase in maybe 3 months or so, maybe not even that long? Tell me in the comments section down below what you think of that. As always, I am interested to hear your opinions in the comments section down below. Another thing that I want to talk about is the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. If you like the way I do technical analysis and you want to learn how to do technical analysis, if you click the link in the description down below, you can see what we offer in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. Before you go ahead and jump in, we've had a lot of people join the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, heretofore known as the CT2A, to make this simpler because that's a bit of a mouthful. We've had a lot of people join this CT2A. I'm not even bullshitting you guys. Excuse the language. I'm not even making this up. I've had a lot of people join the course. We've had a lot of people join the course. I haven't had one single complaint. We haven't had one single refund policy, and we do have a rather fair refund policy, I believe. If you go on that link, then you can see what it is. Anyway, I do think it's a very good product, and for the rest of today, if you use the code that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, CT2A 2018, then you'll be able to get 20% off the course, bring it down to about $80, and then you'll also be able to get in for the cheapest that you will ever be able to get in, because there's 5 new videos going up in the course on Wednesday, and the price will be going up to $149 on Thursday. That's this Thursday, not next Thursday. So if you want to get in for the cheapest you'll be ever be able to, you can do that today on Cyber Monday. Anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button, smashing that notification bell, guys, because like I said in a couple videos ago, I do have reports of people telling me that they're not getting the video showing up in their sub feed. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video, guys. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.